There are moments in military history when the ingenuity of ordinary soldiers outshines the technology of their time. One of the most fascinating examples comes from the First World War, when men living in mud-filled trenches developed a heating method so effective, so practical, and so resource-efficient that it kept entire dugouts warm during some of the harshest winters Europe had faced. This wasn't a factory-issued device or a carefully engineered supply item. It was a frontline invention, born from necessity, created from scraps, and powerful enough to keep frostbite, sickness and morale collapse at bay. And here's the part that keeps historians and survivalists coming back. That same technique still works today, with no electricity, no complex tools, and almost no fuel. If you pride yourself on understanding real history, not the dramatized version, and if you value practical fieldcraft that actually works, then this forgotten WWI heating trick is something you'll want to know inside and out. Before we dig into how soldiers built it, how they kept it burning, and how it saved thousands of lives, understand why this method mattered. The trenches weren't just uncomfortable. They were freezing, waterlogged death traps where smoke from a normal campfire could get you shelled, and where any unnecessary movement risked collapse. Cooking was difficult. Drying clothing was almost impossible. Keeping warm was a daily struggle. So when soldiers discovered a way to heat their dugouts while staying hidden from the enemy, it became one of the quiet but essential survival breakthroughs of the war. The heating trick came from the combination of a trench brazier and a controlled draft system. The heart of the technique was the trench brazier. This was a metal container, sometimes issued, sometimes improvised from ammunition tins, that held burning coal, coke or dried wood. But the real innovation was the draft chimney. Soldiers learned that by attaching a length of pipe, stovepipe, or even scavenged tin tubing to the brazier, they could direct smoke away from their position while also increasing airflow through the fire. With more oxygen feeding the burn, the brazier produced significantly more heat while giving off far less visible smoke. That meant a soldier could heat a dugout without revealing his location to enemy aircraft or artillery spotters. Many units went a step further by routing the pipe horizontally first, then upward through the trench wall or a shattered tree stump to disperse the smoke slowly. The result was an incredibly efficient heating system built from junkyard materials. This heating setup changed day-to-day survival conditions more than most field manuals admit. Heat wasn't a luxury on the Western Front. It was a physical necessity. Frostbite ran rampant in winter, especially on the Eastern Front and high-altitude positions like the Vosges. When a brazier was lit inside a dugout, the temperature could rise enough to thaw frozen boots, soften stiff greatcoats, and bring numb hands back to life. This directly reduced cases of trench foot, which developed when damp, cold feet lost circulation and tissue began to decay. A warm dugout also helped dry socks, blankets and underwear that otherwise would have stayed wet for days. That drying ability alone helped cut down on respiratory infections. Even more importantly, the brazier allowed soldiers to boil water, sterilize cups and utensils, and reheat tinned rations. Essential steps when contaminated water and spoiled food killed more men than rifle fire in the early stages of the war. You can still recreate this heating method today using basic scrap materials. A modern survivalist can replicate a World War I-style trench heater with nothing more than a metal container, a small length of pipe, and a controlled airflow setup. Start with a fire-safe chamber, such as an old paint can, ammo box, or thick-walled tin. Punch or cut several small holes near the bottom edge to serve as oxygen intakes. Add a layer of gravel or small stones at the base to improve airflow. For the chimney, attach a short metal pipe to the top using wire, clamps, or even packed mud if no hardware is available. The chimney should extend at least a foot above the fire chamber so that the temperature difference creates a natural draft. Once the fire is lit, the rising heat pulls air in from below, increasing combustion efficiency. With this design, even damp wood can sometimes be coaxed into burning steadily, and smokeless fuels burn exceptionally well. If using this outdoors, or in a lean-to shelter, you can snake the pipe away before venting it upward to keep the fire concealed. The controlled draft is what makes the system work, and, well, understanding it opens the door to broader fieldcraft skills. The brazier works because of convection. Hot air rises through the chimney, pulling cooler air in through the intake holes. This airflow stabilizes the burn, reduces the need for constant tending, and focuses heat upward and outward. When soldiers in the trenches discovered this, they essentially reinvented the principles behind modern rocket stoves and efficient wood burners, decades before those devices became mainstream. Learning how to create and manipulate this draft is a skill that applies to improvised stoves, emergency heating systems, and even long-term homestead setups. Once you understand how air moves through a fire, you can control burn rate, smoke output, and fuel consumption with surprising precision. This First World War heating method remains one of the most adaptable survival tools you can learn today. Its value lies in the combination of low smoke, low fuel use, high heat output, and total independence from manufactured tools. Whether used in a cabin with no power, an off-grid workshop, or a long-term bug-out shelter, the principle remains the same. People still build near-identical setups for ice fishing shacks, cold-weather campsites, and military reenactment events. Hunters use similar braziers to warm small blinds. Homesteaders rely on draft-assisted burn cans to sterilize water during outages. The wisdom from a century ago still works because it was built from the most resilient material available necessity. This trick is a reminder that the frontline soldiers who lived through the First World War were more than fighters. They were innovators. They took scrap metal, battlefield debris, and basic physics, and turned it into a system that protected their health, extended their endurance, and allowed them to function through some of the coldest and most brutal conditions imaginable. Understanding their methods isn't nostalgia. It's a form of practical respect, a way to carry forward knowledge that still serves a purpose in the modern world. If you found this guide valuable and want more forgotten tools, methods, and survival innovations from the past, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this video with others who appreciate real history brought back to life.